Hey, howdy, hey, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. Take 2 on this testing this new phone. Last time I filmed with the selfie cam because it's way more practical, admittedly. All I have to do is like watch myself. Here I'm trying to set this up with like a mirror in the background. It's over there. I don't know if this is working. It should look a lot better though. Like the image should look clearer because now I'm filming, with the front camera. No, now I'm filming with the back camera. Anyway, this is my review and Easter eggs video for Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 3, Starstruck. Yes, that's right, Episode 3, because as it turns out, last time it wasn't one long episode, it was actually a double episode. Yes, there is a difference, and on that note, before we get into this week's episode review, let's address last week's, because yeah, I made a mistake. Thing is, I do try to be as precise as possible when making these videos, as factual as possible. But considering there are so many episodes to talk about, sadly, I'm bound to make a mistake now and then. And so last week, I was under the impression that it wasn't a double episode. I really did think it was just episode 1, and for some bizarre reason, they made it super long. The reason why I'm talking about this now is because I ended up ranting on the runtime last week, and ultimately, I feel like that rant does affect the overall vibe of the review, and so I would like to apologize for complaining about something I clearly hadn't understood correctly at the time. All that being said, I would like to stand by my opinion somewhat in saying that 45 minutes, be it one single episode or 2 stuck together like it is the case here, is still a very bold and perhaps questionable decision for a kid's show. The fact remains that Toddler on the Tube did hit that 30-minute block, so maybe just a 23-minute pilot would have been enough. Still, I'm sorry for not understanding it correctly in the first place and for not talking about it correctly in my videos, so there's that. I apologize. Also, I feel like I'm always dressed in purple. I'm a lazy a lazy person. So I take this Trek on the Tube shirt and then I clean it and then I put it on the top of the pile and then I just take it again. I should really mix it up. Anyway, no one cares about that. On to this week's episode, Starstruck. To my great regret, I am gonna have to say that I wasn't completely taken with the whole thing. Like, I wasn't enchanted. On the contrary, overall, I actually think this episode was kinda lacking. That being said, I still do think it was good enough. I know. What am I trying to say exactly? Well, okay, let me explain. From a story perspective, I don't think the various elements were handled with the greatest of dexterity. The excuses the episode used to have Janeway appear or disappear at any given moment were pretty uninspired. The whole ship getting sucked into an anomaly is a very overdone in science fiction plot at this point. The quote-unquote hostage getting put in the brig was a painfully obvious development, but most of all what bugged me was the pacing, because the episode truly did start off strong before it then rapidly got all caught up in its dying star plot. Now the thing is, while watching this show, one must always take into consideration the target demographic. This is for a younger audience, so most of the story beats, situations, problems, and even character traits have to be pretty straightforward, pretty explicit, and so admittedly that does excuse the simplicity of the narrative choices that I just complained about. Essentially, you're trying to deliver a standalone story that not only has a little tension to it, a little suspense, but can also teach its audience about teamwork and the importance of being willing to learn. Is kind of a tough job. So yeah, Janeway is conveniently activated or deactivated when the story needs it. The gigantic and terrifying anomaly isn't that terrifying after all because, come on, the escape was actually pretty easy, but hey, plot conveniences are probably going to be quite present in this show, and I mean, it's due to the nature of the show. I mean, I think it's fine. Also, the emotional beats are probably always going to be just as simple. Like Rock Tank or Rock Tack there, or I forget the name. Anyway, when she's mentioning she's never eaten any other food than Nutri-Goop. And then later on when she's talking about how she was treated in the mines, I mean, it's all solid development and quite emotional on a certain level, but the delivery and the execution is very basic. Okay, so now that I've gone on my half tangent, half rant about things that I don't really blame the episode for, but that I still wanted to talk about, let's address the real problem, the actual problem that I had with the episode, the pacing. Once our kiddie crew arrives at the dying star, the entire story becomes about escaping. And yes, to a certain degree, it did help develop, or rather show us, more about Dahl. We also got a general boost of self-confidence within the team at the end of the episode when Janeway says that they're the ones that did it. She just nudged them in the right direction, but honestly, that whole passage, the whole escape was just too long. And I think it's because they made the whole star encounter climactic rather than creating a growing tension that ended with a climax. I mean, there's no level-headed problem solving and a gradually escalating risk factor before the panic kicks in. It's just straight panic. Panic on the bridge, panic in the shuttle bay, panic in space. I mean, it's a lot, and it's too much, and too much makes it less interesting. All this being said, though, it's not a complete waste of time. The story was still enjoyable. We're getting to learn and getting to know these characters. I think Murph is still a fan favorite at this point. At least I love him very much. Our friend the Tellarite wasn't nearly as annoying this time around. And it's interesting to see where they're going to take Janeway, and I'm also interested to learn more about Zero here. Just like last time, the animation is still very acceptable. I mean, sometimes it's weaker than other times, but overall it's pretty good. I noticed that the villain here, he was pretty ugly. Like, the render seemed like of a lower quality, but maybe that's just me. Maybe he's just not textured as well as the others. Anyway, the voice acting is really good. The dialogue works for adults, even if it is clearly designed for a younger audience. The music is, in my opinion, a standout. It's really that good. And although cloaking tech and pointy ships aren't exactly innovations for the franchise, I found the entire enemy ship leaving the base sequence very much outstanding. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts, my opinions on Starstruck. Look, even if at times the execution is a little clumsy, overall I still enjoyed myself. I think that I think it's a positive episode, not a negative episode, or at least I think of it positively rather than negatively. As for Toddler on the Tube's reaction, well, she didn't really care for it. I mean, she sat through the opening credits and most of the first half of the episode, but before the halfway mark came around, she was already distracted by other things and ended up working on her puzzles. And no, it's not that she just doesn't enjoy TV. She very much sits and watches shows that she likes, and she absolutely knows what it is that she likes, what it is that she wants to watch. So yeah, this second episode didn't exactly enchant her either. I would like to add, though, that as it turns out, the program is rated TVY7, which means TV Year 7, so 7 and up. And so perhaps the complexity of the show is a tad overwhelming for a 3-year-old, and that would be on me, not on her, or not on the creators of the show. Okay, let's move on to the Easter eggs and references part of the video, starting with Janeway explaining the United Federation of Planets to the crew. While doing so, a whole bunch of illustrations appear. We get some cartoonified versions of the 4 founding members of the Federation: Vulcans, Tellarites, Andorians, and humans. The scene depicted here actually resembles a scene from the animated series quite a lot. We also get a whole bunch of symbols and emblems and logos that have been part of the franchise for years now, as well as a map of the Federation that is probably jacked from one of those books that I don't know anything about, and a nice little collection of random Starfleet ships. Not at all just ships, though. Only ships that have had their own TV shows. I also have an explanation of the United Federation of Planets on this channel. It's a video that I'll link in the description. You can go check it out if you want to learn something. I don't get into too many details. It's not, spoiler heavy. It was designed and conceived for new fans. Also, I do want to say something. The USS Discovery, or at least the Crossfield class ship, is in that, little presentation that Janeway makes. And that makes sense, because officially speaking, the USS Discovery still existed. They just don't know what happened to it later on. Like, they don't know that it went to the future, etc. But it did exist. It was destroyed in battle. Oh, and another little thing I want to point out is Janeway talks about both the Alpha and Beta Quadrants when giving this whole explanation, which is nice, because usually people forget about the Beta Quadrant, even though, like, the entire Romulan Star Empire and the Klingon Empire are based in there, as well as, like, a huge chunk of the Federation. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. The last little Janeway Easter egg is the coffee cup, because yes, in Voyager, Janeway drank coffee, black. It's a whole meme, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there is this shot that seems to be inspired by this shot that was once seen in Voyager, and also the whole concept of bunk beds has been done several times before in the franchise, but yeah. So far, not an overwhelming amount of Easter eggs to go over. So there you have it. Thoughts, opinions, what Toddler on the Tube thought of the episode, the Easter eggs, all of it, it's done. The new camera, what do you think of it? The quality should be a lot better. The problem is now I need to frame it well. The framing is going to become difficult because I can't see anything. Also, I have to figure out where to look. I think I'm looking in the right place now. I think. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all of those wonderful things. You're the best. You are the best. Yes, that's right. I'm gonna try and not swear in these Prodigy reviews. I'm trying my hardest to not swear in these Prodigy reviews because I'm thinking maybe kids might end up watching these. So welcome, kids, if you're interested in Star Trek. Yeah, that's it. Okay. A big thanks to the channel patrons, and as usual, live long and prosper.